Stretching the arms up, pulling the head back. Down, looking down on top of the fingers to the back of the neck, stretching. Hands up and out. And turning the head. And then folding the hands down onto the hips. And rotating the whole back. And changing direction. Now rubbing the hands. holding the elbows, feeling the energy, the heat going into the elbow joint. Now let's rub the hands again. And then we'll hold the elbows again, but behind the back. Behind. And then rotating the head. And the other way. Now rubbing the hands again. Now the hands over the sacrum. So one hand over each sacroiliac. Feeling. The mind doesn't think, it feels. Sensitivity. Very gently sort of pulling the hands away from each other a little bit to get a sense of stretching across the sacrum. And then you can work it a little bit, so up and down. So one hand pushing down very gently, the other one teasing up, and then alternating. So there's a sense of turning. And then bring the hands down onto the hips and just feel that joint. So these are the main joints really for Tai Chi, sacroiliacs and the hips. Sliding the hands down to the knees and rubbing the knees. Feeling the muscles in the belly pulling you forwards, and then the muscles in the back pulling your back. So trying to get it from the back, the spine, rather than the arms. When we do the hands together, the system's sort of well behaved. You know, we can just slow it down and really watch every little bit. But now if we alternate, suddenly there's a level of complexity that's just impossible to analyze. We just have to abandon ourselves to it. Now, as well as a rocking back and forth, there's a twisting. And that creates a level of activity way above what we were doing. And then rocking the hands again. And we're just placing the hands on the shoulders. feeling the energy going into the joint. And rubbing the hands again. And then placing the hands on the back of the head. Either side of the occiput, lightly. Pulling the hands apart very gently just to stretch the back of the head. And then bring the hands around to rest over the temples. And then round to the eyes and palming. Whenever we place the hands on the body, it sort of settles, and then slowly it's like the hands start playing with each other, moving slightly. And we want that movement to get into the part of the body that we're touching. So almost like you're trying to get a little bit of mobility in the cranial plates. So there's movement inside the bones of the skull. The cranium, sternum, sacrum, they're fused bones and made of fused parts, and we want to get a little bit of movement in the junctures. And all the time just watching how does it feel different when I can get this movement inside. The problem with the mind is when it does something, especially something under instruction and under observation, it's like a controller. It's operating from outside. It imposes something upon the body. We want the energy to feel as though it's coming from within. It's like a passion that's bursting to come out. And it's that that produces the action and the movement, not an outside controlling force. So this is what's difficult. And now keep the eyes closed, but bring the hands and send them up above the head. And then out to the side, so the arms straight now, out to the side, 2 fingers pointing. Then open the eyes a little and start snaking. So you sort of slowly you become aware of the movement in your peripheral vision. But it's more like a feeling rather than something you actually see. And both hands out. Hands round to the front, folding them into prayer. And just feel those places. We've had the hands. So the sacroiliacs, the sacrum spreading, the hips. So this feeling that there's like space, there's energy inside the joints. And then the knees, and the shoulders, elbows, and the back of the head, round to the temples. Temples really pulling apart, so expanding across that part of the head. And then the eyes. And then just bring the hands down to the down chin. Feel that point, your center of gravity. So everything's pulling down into this point. It's all getting heavier and heavier. and then feel the mind. So we want the mind to feel really expansive. So this is the center of gravity. This is the center of levity, and it just reaches everywhere. This is heavy. This is really light. Wants to float upwards. This is condensing and slowly becoming solid. And this is evaporating, vaporizing, becoming a cloud. The problem with this sort of work is that we're creating an image of what we think something should be. So we sit in meditation, we know we should have an erect spine. It all becomes a little bit tense. It's sort of imposed from outside. So I want my erect spine and my head, my neck stretching to be a consequence of my real alert awakeness, rather than because I've stiffly put myself in position. It's like a curiosity, very childlike. And now let's try just a bit of the butterfly. And then opening the legs. The older we get, the more important stretching becomes. Let's see the stretch, use the mind. I gave a massage to someone last week who was a personal trainer. And I was surprised how tense her legs and her hips were. So I said, yeah, you need to do some stretching. He says, oh, I do. So I said, let me see. And it really was like just going through these physical motions. There was no mind at all. I think it's important to have something in our lives that we're actually improving at, especially as we get older and everything seems to be getting worse. And stretching is one thing that you will improve at if you just do a little bit every day. And you can really see yourself getting deeper into the stretches. And it does, it just opens the mind. The mind just becomes bigger and more interested. Into the kneeling. You can see why the Japanese meditate like this. much easier to keep a good spine and a proud thymus. And just extending the hands above the head and down into the fetus, but really stretching. So extending the hands all the way down.
The hands reaching forwards, but the tail reaching back. Then back up.
Separating the feet so you can sit down between them. Now let's just rub the hands for a few seconds. And hands over the sacrum, and then down into the fetus again. Then up. Lying back. Alternating the legs. Feeling each hip bone as part of its leg. The sacroiliacs are sort of loosening a little. And then just pulling the knees up until the sacrum peels up off the ground. And then up. Into the squat. Then up. Moving side to side, feeling the filling and the emptying. We want to get that coming all the way from the sacrum, not just from the hips. So this sacroiliac opens so that the hip can fall away. I need to start filling one side before the other side has the confidence to really open up and empty. and then into riding horse. Feel these two bones, the hip bones, pulling away from the sacrum. And feel the flow of gravity. I let gravity into my body, and it becomes a flow through rather than a force pulling me down. So let's just try tracing it. So down the spine, and then it's here. I have to somehow pull the hips away so that I can then reach down. And then into riding horse again. So feel the hands pulling towards each other helps stretch the back open. It's the same here, the feet feeling like they're wanting to meet onto the ground helps stretch the sacrum. Now let's just try pulling in the rope. Releasing the shoulder blade down the arm. So extending from the spine rather than simply from the hand. Turning the head away from the place you're reaching towards. And now let's sink into the leg. So filling the leg, but just let yourself lean and lift the other foot. So like the sumo stamping. And then put the foot down and then lean this side. So just outside edge and keep the leg bent. And now let's turn. Using the alternating action of the legs to produce this turn. Let the eyes unfocus. So the room is a blur of movement. Let the hand that goes behind become a fist and strike the sacrum. And the hand in front to open and come up to the opposite shoulder. And the second one. So here, try and keep turning. So we tend to turn and face the side, but you can actually get a little bit further around. And then back into riding horse. So the sinking, the flow down. So I have to see the channel. So the spine, you can think of the skeleton. So the spine branching into the hips and down the legs. And that has to be clear, open. So it will tend to lock up here. Not just in an effort to support myself and stabilize myself, but a lot of one's self-image is all locked up here. You really feel that when you massage them, especially a young person who's very conscious of how they come across, how they appear. This area is often rigid. Flat belly, they're pulling the tummy in all the time so they don't look fat, and they're just tightening up here. It's just anxiety, really, but an anxiety that's held inside. It's lying, basically. So I want to just let go here, so that I'm endlessly flowing down. The flow is streaming, streaming, streaming. And then my own strength becomes a flow upwards. But I have to relax right to the point of almost failure. And to keep the channel clear and to keep the energy flowing, the mind has to stay with it. My mind gets distracted, the channel will seize up. There'll be a blockage and there'll be no energy. And now let's have 1 foot forwards and just backwards and forwards, just this one. Feeling the whole side of the body releasing, falling away from the spine, the shoulder blade, the hip, reaching down into their respective limb. And feel the return. So it's like a boomerang. Something releases and it flies out, but it's going to return. It pulls back. This is breathing effectively. the in-breath has to become an out-breath and vice versa. Toes extend, fingers extend, then they both clench as though to pull something. And the other foot forwards. And back to right ankles. Now let's try aggravating around the hips. So feel the full and empty. It's like body and spirit. So the full is my body, which is the weight really. And the empty is the release, is the spirit and the energy expressing in the empty side. So really there's two figures of eights going on. There's one which is the movement of my weight, my center of gravity, which is the one we tend to concentrate on. And then the other is the energy that's expressing in the opposite side. So that's more like, when we pull ourselves with the foot. So I come into this leg, this releases, and then I pull the energy back up. So when we're pulling ourselves side to side, we're doing the figure of eight, but it's with the energy or the spirit rather than the body. My weight is settling here, but this is expressing the energy. And I can just switch between the two. I can now just start feeling it as my center of gravity, my weight that's moving around this trace. And it's clearly seen in the first posture of the form. So let's just try that. It's the very first posture, where we do this. So sinking down into the foot, outside edge, let this foot come up as high as you can get it, and then step out. Okay, now just feel that weight coming heel, outside edge, around into the toes, and then the energy then expresses this side. So the weight stays here, but the figure of eight has switched from one side to the other, but first with the weight and then with the energy. So settling down into that outside edge. Now, this is the energy, if you like. It's whenever we step, basically the foot is expressing the movement of energy. And then I pull with the foot, and that starts my weight coming into it, which circles around the foot, allowing the energy to express in the other side. Just bringing around the foot rather than pulling yourself into it. And that's just the very first posture. So let's try again. So I sink down. I really want to get under the ground, so into the outside edge. And now I reach with my foot, and that's this tentacle of energy. I then pull the ground. That starts my weight moving into the foot around the outside edge. And now the energy expresses this side. And I bring that round, just keeping my weight here. So sinking really out and down. Stepping out is the energy extending like a tentacle. And then I pull around, my weight comes into the foot, and the energy can then express here. We just need this mind that can switch effortlessly between the full and the empty. It's quite a different mind, but we want to be able to change from one to the other easily. So I settle down here, and then I extend this out. And then I'm pulling myself into the foot. So the weight starts coming around this outside edge, which frees up the other leg for the energy to express in it. And one more. Big toe goes down, and I pull myself around the foot, the weight's coming, following that trace. And then I let the energy express here and bring these toes around. I could just equally step up. Doesn't really matter. The form doesn't require you to be like this. And now let's try this one. Aiming to get real looseness in the hip joints. So where the hip joins the sacrum, where the legs join the hips. Feeling these two bones, these two hip bones alternating. And feel the turning. As soon as we introduce turning, we want a sense that the drive forcing the motor, if you like, is coming from deep inside rather than it being imposed by my mind. So something is happening here. My mind just refuses to get involved because it knows if it does, it will just ruin it because it's just too complex for the mind. And then just into the lopey jog. And just feeling this slosh from side to side. Feel the sacroiliacs. And it's difficult releasing them. Remember Verne? He was always complaining of a sore back. Oh, my back. And I once said to John, why is Verne's back always bad and yet mine is fine? And he just said, he's more relaxed than you are. And so it's like when you let go in this region, suddenly it's vulnerable. So you have to be careful. into sort of not too wide a riding horse. And just doing this exercise again, this one, but with the feet wider apart. Again, turning towards and into the foot that has the heel coming up. So it's a real foot strengthener, this exercise. So this heel is coming up. This heel is really trying to dig down into the ground. And then just figure of 8 with it. So this exercise, it's just impossible to analyze, really. And that's what we want. We want something that confounds the mind. The mind is out of its element, so all it can do is just disappear and let the energy and the passion take over. Yeah, so everything we do really is geared towards generating levity and spirit. Levity is spirit, really. So this lightness that infuses the body but comes from within. It's not something that flows through the body from outside, like gravity. It's actually sort of generated within. It's just the life force, the elan vital. And we want it to really sparkle. It's light and it's full of humor. It is humor. Okay, now just consider the puppet, the string puppet. So what would be the minimum number of strings you'd have to have attached to that puppet for it to function reasonably well? The obvious one is the head. There'd need to be a string here that can pull the head up. Then you'd also need 2 strings that can pull the hands up. So you think of it attached to like the middle finger or the wrist, but really it's the fingers. So there's like spirit in the fingers. So the fingers are wanting to go out and touch when they shouldn't. And there needs to be 2 strings attached to each knee. So when the puppet walks, the puppet man pulls up the knee. That action of pulling up the knee flicks the foot out, then puts it down, and then this one. And it's just from those 2 strings controlling the knees. And this is basically where we feel the spirit expressing most clearly in the body. So here, in the hands, with these really bird-like fingers, and these knees that are wanting to lift all the time. And just feel that if you get this real sense of lightness and lifting in the knees, it just pulls you down behind them. It sinks you. So this is here, how the rising actually produces the sinking as much as the other way around. And this is riding horse. So feeling that lift from the knees. And that's what the legs really need to be strong for that. So settling down behind them. And this feeling here of the hands coming up. So now let's just try that bit of the form again, that step, and then put on the next bit, which is this. Feeling the spirit lifting the hands, the strings around the foot, outside edge. Really imagine your foot's really big, like a snowshoe. And then reach out with the tentacle, and then use the tentacle to pull your weight into the foot. And then the tentacle releases on this side. And I'll just pull that one around. And now I just relax the wrists. And now just imagine they're floating up. Just feel the spirit that will actually make this movement happen. And then bring your mind to the elbows. The elbows are heavy. The elbows are with the dantian. They're wanting to sink down. And the hands settle. But all the time, this spreading across here. And so it's tough on the legs. The weight is going around the outside edge, little toe through to the big toe. And then I reach out with this tentacle of energy. Big toe goes down first. The leg starts contracting, which is pulling my weight around. And then this can release. And then I just bring the energy back. And now relax the wrists and feel the wrists lightening and pulling up. And that sucking you down behind the feet, and then heavy elbows dropping down towards the dantian. Again, keeping this releasing all the time. That's what's difficult. Every time we do anything, literally anything, any physical action, any thought even, especially, it will tense up across here. We just feel this need to hold ourselves together. That's what we're trying to let go of. Okay, let's try a couple more. So round here. Ooh. Tentacle goes out with the leg, and then I pull, and my weight starts going around this foot, and then the energy can then release down the other leg and return. Hands release, and ooh, feel the spirit becoming so light. The hands just float upwards. My sacrum is sinking down behind that. And then if anything, you sort of straighten up here physically. And keep this releasing. It's so difficult. And now one more. So round the foot, heel, outside edge, little toe through the toes to the big toe. Reaching out, pulling. The weight starts coming around this foot, but always after the energy. And then the energy expresses here. And I just don't let the weight go. Again, releasing. I really have to just try my best just to feel this. It's something in me gets interested. Something in me becomes so, ooh, so light and fascinated. It just expresses in the lightness of the hands. And then the elbows become heavy and pull everything down. And that enables me to rise up. So let's try the next one. Ward off left is really quite complicated. God knows why it's the first posture. So effectively what you're doing, there's this thing in the martial arts of never going backwards. John always used to say the feast is forwards. When the person attacks, there's this sense that you're sort of climbing up their body. with each joint, the hand grabs their wrist first, the other hand grabs their elbow, the other hand grabs their shoulder, and then finally you attack. It's quite common in the martial arts, this concept, and it's certainly, Nitzan introduced it to me when he started talking about the Chen style that he'd studied, which is all to do with that. So this is the first posture of the form. So again, my weight is going around this foot, which is stabilizing me here so that the energy can express in the other hand. So I'm sinking here, which enables the energy to loop forwards. Now I just imagine that I'm pulling someone's wrist. My hand goes forwards, I hold their wrist and pull. This hand then reaches up to their elbow, which I pull through so that this hand can reach up to their shoulder. And then I step in, and then I just get underneath them and lift them. And as I settle into the front foot, I just pull down that right hand here to whiplash the neck. Yeah, so just really trying to see the posture. And it's got this 1, 2, 3, this waltz feel. Yield, 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 attack. The heaviness here allows the lightness here. So entering, yielding, the other hand enters and yields to the elbow, the other hand enters and yields to the shoulder. Step in, get underneath and lift and really straighten the spine at the top, and that will just pull this hand down naturally. I'll try the other side. So sinking here to release the energy in the other side. So sink, release, yielding to their wrist. This hand comes up, takes their elbow. This hand then enters again to take their shoulder, step in, and then really getting underneath them here and just straightening the spine, and that will bring them up and enable you to pull down here. So by the time you've finished your 3 yields, you really want to be facing them. Yeah, so you're not at an angle. The next posture, we're definitely at an angle, but not this one. Under, up, and pulling down. Okay, let's try it from the beginning. Do those 3 bits. So round the foot, lift this one up, step out, that tentacle of energy reaching out, pull yourself into the foot, the weight starts circling, enables the energy to express here. And then just bring that foot round, release the wrists, and now really light. There's a real lightness has to lift these wrists, which brings my spine down behind them, and then heavy elbows. And now my weight's predominantly here. I'll just put everything there so I can really extend here. Then yielding to the wrist, yielding to the elbow, reaching up to the shoulder, getting underneath the person and lifting them up and pulling them down. And just keep it relaxing across the sacrum. And the other side, so round here. And reaching out, taking the wrist, helping the elbow through, enables you to then reach up again, up to their upper arm or their shoulder, and then you just lift them up, and this hand pulls down. One more. Sit down behind these hands. Coming back to riding horse one last time. Feel this spreading. It will want to do the opposite. It will want to pull in here, and the belly will want to distend and fall forwards. There's this feeling, it's just ward off in the legs really. It's difficult. And then bringing the feet together. Let the heels come out a bit and the toes come in. So again, we've got this stretch across the lower back, legs a little bit bent, always with this feeling like the kitten stimulating the teat to provide milk. And this is like us, we're sort of stimulating the ground to give up a little bit of its energy. Try to wake up the spirit, you know, so when that wakes and you feel really alive, then everything comes alive. It's like everything you encounter, you invest with a little bit of spirit. And everything just becomes so much more interesting. Dangerous, but interesting.